Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Mokwariola. Evolving from its earliest form to an advanced model, education has grown to become a solid foundation for civilization and everyday life, with the digital technology changing the way people live, learn and work. In Africa, the quality of education is presently being undermined by a deficit of educators, where the pupil and teacher ratio is among the highest in the world, exceeding 40:1. On this episode, I will be speaking with the facilitator of a leading non-profit recruitment agency focused on the Nigerian education. We take a report on, and Africa Today will continue. Welcome on board.
Goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals is threatened by the lack of accountability in education. The UN Agency for Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, warns that disproportionate blame on the teacher for systemic educational problems can have serious negative side effects.
We find that quite often a lot of blame is put on teachers. However, their work is very dependent on other actors in education. For instance, if schools don't have the right facilities, teachers might often not be able to provide quality education. If they're not offered enough training, they're also not able to perform to the fullest of their capacities. Hence, teachers should not be blamed for things that are beyond their control and cannot be held responsible for all that goes wrong in education.
Katazina Kubaka is referring to teachers like Ebenezer Oje, who works in an unconducive atmosphere without electricity. He has acquired for himself a power-generating set just to light up his office workspace in a government-owned institution of higher learning.
What's the allocation for the budgetary allocation for education in every year? Now, world all over, they take education seriously and they make a very serious, big allocation for education. You know, over 50 or 56%. But in Nigeria, let's look into how much has been budgeted for education for the past maybe 10 years. And that will tell you what we are talking about here.
In this year's Global Education Monitoring Report, UNESCO says, don't just blame the teacher when the system is at fault.
And we know them.
But in Kaduna State, northern Nigeria, the blame is on the teachers. The state governor doubts the intellectual competence of the teachers to provide quality education. But the teachers say the government has failed in its responsibility.
There are documents in the Ministry for Local Government of outstanding salaries that is accruable to teachers and local government staff. So why should another statement come up by saying that nobody is being owed? These are some of the issues. Lift transport grant of 2015, it was paid but halfway, about 3,380, are yet to receive lift grant of 2015.
The Education Monitoring Report wants accountability in education to start with governments as a duty bearer of the right to education. There is now a global call to stop the blame game and achieve Goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals by sharing responsibility.
Welcome back. Joining me in the studio on Africa Today, I have Damilola Okwetu, recruitment consultant and lead facilitator, XpressTeachers.com. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
On the program. So yes, education in Nigeria has always been a bane of discussion, from time immemorial. Even though there have been budgets for this sector, yet many people say it's a far cry from what we should expect, knowing that our education system in the country over time now isn't something to talk about, But what's your general assessment of education in Nigeria, knowing that it is a viable tool for sustainable development?
Education is really the future of any economy, and it's sad that in this country of arts, it's not our government is not placing education in the place, or is not giving it the major priority. This is reflected in how much is being budgeted for the educational sector, and this has also affected the funds and also the standard of education that we have in our country. Now, a lot of people blame the teachers, but if we look at it very well, even the teachers are not given the welfare and the opportunity to grow. You go to most schools, and what kind of facilities do they even have in place? Are these teachers exposed to the right type of technology that is needed in this 21st century to give them the ability to make them stand like their colleagues in the developed countries, so that they'll be able to impact this knowledge into the younger generation that they are teaching?
And now you mentioned welfare, which is usually the crux of, most teachers' agitations. They say they're poorly paid, they're poorly funded, and all of that. I'm really, really concerned. Why are teachers so poorly paid?
I would say it has been a thing that has been revolving. And it's sad that even as most sectors are growing and as they are growing and the funds are also improving in terms of the professionals that are in this sector, the educational system has just refused to grow with other sectors. This also goes back to how much is budgeted for the educational sector. And I think this is even when you now talk about private schools, it's still the same thing. And that's why you have it that most people, when you say I want to be a teacher, when you say would you like to be a teacher, most people are like, no, I don't want to be a teacher. Not because they don't have the passion to teach, not because they don't want to impact the younger generation. It's a general knowledge that these teachers are poorly paid. And this has a major thing to do with the government, because the government are supposed to be the one to fill in these gaps. If governments prioritize education, then even the private sectors too will stand up to the game.
All right, let's look at government policies over time and what they've been able to do, to shore up the educational system in the country today. Would you say it has, in one way or the other, helped, the system be more better than it was before?
Well, the private sectors have been the ones standing in gap for the government. The place the government has left vacuum, the private sectors have been the one that have been taking up that responsibility, and so far they've been doing well. Because you now have it that while we were young, a lot of parents at least they are proud to send their children to government schools, but we don't have it now. If you can afford it, or anybody that can afford it, they want to send their children to private schools because they know that the government schools are, I don't want to use the language good for nothing, but you can't get the best, especially when it comes to the foundation stage of a child, the nursery and the primary level. No parents who can afford, even if those that cannot afford it, they strive at least to make whatever level of private school they get, no matter how small. At least there are some private schools that are not so expensive. So these parents strive to put their children in such schools. And
they will be left at the mercy of those who do not charge so much, because most private schools we know
and so
are
whether
so
they even get the best quality of education there, so far it's a private school, they would always feel, okay, it is better than sending my child to a government school.
But isn't it better for us to have a government standard school so that, for those who are, like say, less privileged, do not have enough to fend for themselves in private institutions, they can be able to, have the basic education to grow in this life?
We have to have standard government schools. If we have standard government schools, even a lot of these young children that you see that walk on the streets, they will be in schools. But the government has neglected their responsibility, and that is why you see people, they can't afford to send their children to school. And that is why you see in the morning, instead of a young child to be in school, you're seeing him in traffic, he's selling. You go to a shop, you see a young child there, which is of school age, especially primary school. This child is just below 10, and you see the child in the market on a school day doing what? Just because the parents can afford to send him to school.
Recently now, in Kaduna, in the city in Nigeria, about 28,000 teachers failed a competency test because the government feels that, it has to do some rejigging in the educational system. And the number of those that didn't pass the test are about 28,000 out of 33,000. Now, you are a teacher in this, you're a teacher in this sector, and definitely, such news can be really, really worrying. But when it came up first to you, how do you react? How did you see this?
Well, being in the educational sector, I felt bad because, the percentage of those that failed is really alarming. But then it goes back to the government. How have you trained these teachers? These people have been there for years. True. These are not people that just graduated from school. They've been there for years. What kind of training have they been exposed to? Have they traveled out of this country for 1 or 2 trainings? Has there been exhibitions? Has there been conferences that these people have attended? Even if they were going to do it on their own, from their own personal pocket, are they being paid enough to even fend for themselves, let alone for them to now be able to squeeze out some money to attend personal training, to develop themselves? So it goes back to the government. There are several trainings that these teachers that are available to teachers, but how affordable they are. We are not talking about the trainings that come up every now and then. These are that they just do motivational, just to boost the morals of the teachers. We are talking about trainings that there's a certificate that can be attached to it. And when an international school sees it and they say, "Oh, you have this certificate, come, I'll invite you over to my country." These teachers can't do it on their own. They need government support. Even if you can't give it to those who are in the private sector, what about those who are in the government? What about those who are in the public sector? How have you helped them? How have you helped them to empower their lives? So it goes back to the government. But it's also a wake-up call for them. It's a wake-up call for them to, it's not, when we are looking up to the government, but they can't give us what we need. So even if this opportunity is not there for you to attend this training, the internet is there. You get everything is available on the internet. So personal development, this is my field of study. Just everything you need to know, it's on the internet, and we can make use of it.
Right, you're watching Africa Today. We have been looking at the quality of education in Nigeria and how it's been undermined by a huge deficit of teachers in the country. Stay with us here for more discussions after this break.
Africa faces a difficult path to educate a fast-growing millions of children due to a chronic teacher shortage across the continent. As part of this year's commemoration of World Teacher Day, UNESCO Institute of Statistics released its first ever estimates of teacher shortages across the world. The estimates paint a grim picture for Africa as the continent has the world's greatest teacher shortage. Overcrowding is already a large issue in sub-Saharan African schools. A typical public classroom in many of the countries in question means one teacher to more than 40 students. Left unchecked, the teacher shortage crisis can only escalate. But it is also a crisis that can only be effectively resolved from within. In Nigeria, a non-profit organization called XpressTeachers is helping closing the gap on the nation's teacher deficit by connecting unemployed qualified graduates to schools. Precious recently got a teaching job and hosts to the XpressTeachers.com, a sort of LinkedIn for professionals in the education sector.
I went to the website. When I contacted them on WhatsApp, they gave the website address. So I went to the website, saw everything, all things, and dropped my CV.
To shore up the deficit and achieve universal basic education by 2030, the United Nations says more than 19 million primary and secondary school teachers need to be hired in Africa.
Right, welcome back. Well, I still have in the studio with me a recruitment consultant and lead facilitator, XpressTeachers.com, Damilola Okwetu, and we've been discussing the quality of education in Nigeria and how it has been undermined by the huge deficit of teachers in the country. So now let's look at your organization, how you've been able to help, teachers around the country, get quality jobs and perhaps get a better one at that. How have you been able, or rather, let me start with this. How did this initiative come to pass?
The initiative came about the passion for the educational sector, and we looked at it like, where can we come in? We don't want to do something, we don't want to come into the regular thing of sponsoring teachers or going to a school and having to make donations. We just felt like, okay, we have passion for the educational sector. How can we contribute our own quota? And that's why we decided to come up with a platform of ours, whereby we assist school owners in getting teachers, likewise assist teachers in getting jobs, because we found out that a lot of school owners, there's always a staffing issue. Whenever they have a vacancy, they don't even know how to get this, get the right hands or teachers. What they used to do is, whenever there's a vacancy, you just see them put a signboard outside their school, a maths teacher needed. And somebody who is just strolling by the street walks in and said, okay, I can teach. But with a platform of ours, you are able to, the teacher is able to upload his or her CV, and you are able to glance through these CVs. We have various numbers of CVs there, so you're able to glance through these CVs and pick out anyone you want, and you give them a call. And it's so good that it's segmented. It's about, you can it's not like you can easily assess them by their subjects, by their location, and what have you. Okay,
now for the time being now, how have you been able to help these teachers? Because some of the teachers will say, even though they get some jobs, they will be underpaid. How are you able to help these teachers get something, value for their profession?
Well, when it comes to, for now, we don't get involved in how much these teachers are paid. What we just do is we make the school owner meet the teacher. We don't get involved. We don't even get involved with the recruitment process. We just provide a platform where the school owner can access the CVs of this teacher. Especially, let's look at especially schools, the boarding schools, that they are able to provide accommodation for these teachers. So you can't say because you have a school in Oyo State or in Kwara State, for example, and you could provide an accommodation for a teacher if you see the teacher has the qualification you need. And because the person stays in Lagos and you are considering distance. So if you see the CV of a teacher that you like, and the person stays in Lagos and doesn't mind relocating, and especially when accommodation is put there, then you can give the teacher a call.
And so far, the feedback, how has it been like?
The feedback has been awesome, because we have several schools that we've been able to get teachers for. And from our follow-up, we found out that these teachers are doing well. And this also boils down to the fact that these schools keep calling us and referring us to their colleagues. So that means we are doing well and they are pleased with our services. And we also have a teachers forum. We are on major social media platform where we have teachers forum, and we also have a WhatsApp group. So we see that these teachers, they keep bringing in new people. Okay, please add this person, please add this person, because they know there are vacancies there, and we are not just limited to Lagos alone. We cover the 36 states. So you wouldn't say because you're out of Lagos, then you can't get a job. You can get a job wherever you are, as long as there's a school there. And we also have our own ways of reaching out to all these schools. We attend educational conferences. We attend various gatherings where educational professionals are gathered, so that school owners and teachers can get to know about what we do.
And how long do you intend to keep up with this program?
It's a vision. So it's going to be something that would stay for life. It's something that we even want to stay after we are gone.
Really?
Yes.
That's really good. So are you talking about partnership, from any source?
We're not looking into partnership for now. We are not really looking into partnership, but we want schools. Okay. When I mean schools, I mean colleges of education. We want platform like the NYSC, because these people also have people who have studied education that they are under their camp. So we want this, especially for the colleges of education and people that studied education in the university. We want them to know about what we do, so that once their students are good, now we are going to meet them, just to let them know about what we do. But we want them to come to us that, okay, another set is graduating. We want them, because it's going to be a plus for them, that as your students are finishing, they are not just roaming about the streets looking for jobs. There's a job waiting for them. So they should come to us. That, okay, another set is graduating. take them onto your platform. Come on, okay, do you mind even coming over to our school to put them through this registration process and how to upload their CVs on our platform?
Okay, talking about trainings now, you mentioned that some of the teachers who undergo trainings and all. Is there a particular criteria? For instance, we have the NCEO holders and we have graduate holders. Okay. And, you know, some of those who just, you know, by chance have to have a passion for teaching. For those categories of people, how do you place them? Do they come under the same category as NCE holders? Or how do you place, how do you divide, you know, certain groups of qualified teachers, so to say?
Well, we don't offer trainings, but we have a lot of people who have approached us. We have a lot of those that do these trainings that have approached us so that we could refer our teachers to them. But to answer your question, most of these teachers, they all have their own field. So we have those that are just strictly, they say I'm a Montessori teacher. So they go for Montessori trainings. There are some that are based just on mathematics. There are also trainings in that field. So each of these professions has their own type of trainings that these teachers go for.
All right, let's you know, expand our horizon further. Now, let's look at Nigerian education system, even in the next 10, 15 years from now. Okay. You know, even in the literacy level, our educational system is really ranked really, really low compared to other countries in Africa, for instance, South Africa, Kenya, and the likes. Now, compared to that, do you envisage or do you see Nigerian education sector taking its pride of place, or, you know, overtaking other countries on the continent as a number one stop, or number one stop, you know, destination for anyone looking for the best educational system?
Well, I believe our educational system is not going to continue like this. There's going to be
what must we do to get things right so that we can be at the top?
We need a government that believes that education is the future of any country. Because if our educational system is good, it's going to reflect in our economy. And if our educational system is bad, it's also going to reflect on our economy. So we need a government that can drive that drastic step, bringing that drastic change into the educational sector. I believe there's going to be a time when we have foreigners sending in their children to this country just because they believe in our educational system.
Thanks a lot, Damilola Okpetu, recruitment consultant and lead facilitator. But thank you very much for your contributions.
Thank you for having me
on Africa Today. Yeah. Stuck between the side effects of ignorance and the power of knowledge, Africa continues to play catch-up with the rest of the world, with education tipped to be the game changer for the next generation. In the meantime, closing the gap on teacher deficit would help nations like Nigeria climb up the stairs of sustainable development, one person at a time. And that is our package for today. But don't forget to join the conversation as usual on Twitter at TVC News NG, and follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one, I am Esther Mokwariola, and always remember, change starts with you.